Horizon's Edge was the kind of colony people forgot existed, a quiet speck of civilization orbiting a warm, unremarkable star far beyond the reach of Earth's busy trade routes. For the 90,000 people who lived there, the only battles they fought were over greenhouse planting schedules or which music festival would headline the summer celebration. Scientists charted nebula currents, children played inside grav parks, and old couples watched the twin moons rise in unbroken peace. No one imagined anything could shatter that peace. Commander Aiko Ren, head of Horizon's Edge Security Division, was halfway through her morning report when the lights flickered. At first she thought it was another routine power fluctuation. The colony's reactors were overdue for recalibration. But then the sky outside her window dimmed unnaturally. Shadows slid across the colony like a second night falling far too quickly. She looked up and froze. Not one, not 10, but scores of dark, spiked starships slipped out from the void, their hulls glinting with predatory metal. Their formation was tight, deliberate, nothing like traders or explorers. They were here for blood. The Zarkith Dominion had watched the colony for months. They had counted the population. They had analyzed the defense grid. They had listened to peaceful civilian transmissions and mistaken kindness for frailty. To them, Horizon's Edge was a training exercise. The first strike came before the alarm finished sounding. The orbital shield projectors detonated like overripe fruit. Defense satellites, old, underfunded, meant for meteor diversion, not war, crumbled under the incoming barrage. Aiko leapt from her chair, shouting orders as the command center blared red. Mobilize all units. Activate shelter protocols. Civilian districts first. But even as her people scrambled, she knew the truth. They weren't soldiers, they were caretakers of peace, not guardians of war. The Dominion attack swarmed across the colony like locusts made of steel and spite. Whole districts vanished beneath thermal lances. Residential spires collapsed in molten pieces. The terror was swift, merciless, efficient. Aiko fought through flame and collapsing corridors, rallying her security teams. Their rifles were outdated. Their armor thin. Still they resisted. Still they bought seconds, precious seconds, for fleeing families. Her comms filled with screams. Please. Static. One by one her officers fell. When she finally reached the backup transmitter, her armor was scorched, one eye nearly swollen shut, and her voice ragged, but steady. This is Commander Aiko Ren of Horizon's Edge. We are under coordinated attack by an unknown hostile force. Civilians targeted, mass casualties. If anyone hears this, do not let our deaths be forgotten. She kept the recorder running as she rejoined the last dozen defenders. Gunfire crackled. Explosions roared. Then silence. A silence the galaxy would regret. But Aiko's final broadcast didn't end at Horizon's Edge. It traveled, reaching a world that had sworn never to wage war again, until this moment awakened something ancient inside humanity. Commander Aiko Ren's final transmission tore through the void for 14 long hours before it reached the solar system. The lunar relay station picked it up first, an automated structure orbiting in silent vigilance. Its technicians weren't prepared for the sound that erupted through their consoles. Explosions. Children screaming. Aiko's trembling, yet unbroken voice. Then the awful, suffocating silence at the end. Within minutes, the message flooded every communications channel across Earth. People stopped in the middle of streets. Holographic billboards froze mid-advertisement. Train stations went silent. Homes, schools, government buildings, everywhere everyone heard it. And something deep inside humanity, something old, opened its eyes. The next emergency meeting of the United Earth Assembly wasn't calm or controlled. It was chaos. Representatives shouted over one another. Some demanded negotiation, others urged retreat, others panicked openly. At the front of the room, Fleet Marshal Adrian Holt waited. He had waited for decades. His hair was silver, his posture rigid, his expression carved from stone. When the shouting finally quieted, he spoke, not loudly but with the kind of voice that made generations straighten without knowing why. Before talking, he played Aiko Ren's final message again. Those in the room who had cried the first time now cried harder. Those who had been angry now trembled with restraint. And those who feared war suddenly feared something else. What would happen if they didn't act? 61,000 confirmed dead, Holt said softly. More unaccounted for. Horizon's Edge has been erased. By who? Someone whispered. The attackers call themselves the Zarkith Dominion. A war empire. 3 millennia of conquests. Murmurs. Fear. How many ships? Another asked. Intelligence estimates place their naval strength at roughly 1,400 war-capable vessels. And what do we have? The question everyone dreaded. Marshal Holt exhaled. Officially? A few hundred patrol and research ships, none capable of fighting a Dominion fleet. Gasps spread across the chamber. But Holt wasn't finished. He tapped a control pad. The screens behind him changed. Massive underground doors hidden beneath Mars' crust opened like the jaws of titans. Asteroid mining rigs revealed armored hulls beneath layers of deception. Lunar communication towers shed panels, transforming into strategic weapon platforms. For 2 centuries, humanity had kept a secret, even from itself. A fleet built in the shadows. Factories disguised as mining stations. Warships constructed under false identities. Millions trained under the guise of deep space research. Holt turned back to the assembly. We do not have 300 ships, he said. Pause. We have over 5,000. Gasps became silence, heavy, stunned silence. These ships were built not for conquest, Holt continued, but as a promise. A promise we hoped never to keep. Earth's hidden armories woke. Massive engines rumbled to life for the first time. Soldiers who had pretended to be engineers, botanists, or technicians put on their true uniforms. Adrian Holt lifted his hand. The Zarkith Dominion struck a world under our protection. They murdered peaceful citizens. They laughed. His voice hardened. And now, they will learn what humanity truly is. He gave the order. All fleets, activate jump drives. Across the solar system, 5,000 warships vanished into fold space. Humanity was going to war. But humanity's fury didn't come quietly. The first Dominion fleet to face them never even understood how badly they had misjudged their prey, until it was far too late. The Zarkith Dominion patrol stationed at Outpost Xeras 9 was not prepared for history to arrive on their doorstep. 30 Dominion cruisers drifted lazily around a fuel depot, their crews bored and restless. They had heard rumors of a human colony being destroyed, mere entertainment to them. The Dominion had crushed dozens of species. Humanity was simply next on the list. Commander Veldar lounged in his command chair, talons tapping the armrest in irritation. Another quiet cycle, he growled. This sector never sees action. His communications officer suddenly stiffened. Sir, unknown signatures approaching. Veldar smirked. Finally. How many? The officer gulped. 200. A ripple of amusement filled the bridge. 200 human vessels? Laughable. Standard formation, Veldar ordered. Let us teach these newcomers why weaklings should stay near their cradle worlds. The Dominion cruisers aligned flawlessly. Their overlapping shield network crackled to life. Cannons primed. Fighters deployed. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. The human ships didn't slow. Didn't hesitate. Didn't even adjust their formation. They came like a storm front, silent, precise, impossibly fast. Veldar narrowed his eyes. Strange. They approached faster than expected. Then space tore open behind the Dominion fleet. Not 200 ships. 300 more. They materialized out of fold space with predatory calm, already armed, already firing. The Dominion ships were trapped. Before Veldar could scream an order, the first cruiser near him exploded, not in flame but in fragments so fine they resembled shimmering dust. A kinetic slug had torn through its entire length faster than sensors could track. What weapon did that? Another slug ripped his words apart as 2 cruisers vanished from the display. Human rail cannons thundered again and again, each shot a miniature apocalypse. Hyperdense rounds pierced shields as if they were decorative glass. Plasma lances carved through armor like surgical blades. The Dominion counterattacked, unleashing volleys of missiles and energy bursts, but their targets danced. Human ships didn't move like any fleet the Dominion had ever faced. They curved, twisted, realigned with liquid precision, anticipating every shot. Their point defense systems turned entire missile waves into harmless spark showers. Veldar felt something he had never known, fear. Return fire. All guns, he roared. But it was useless. Human missiles swarmed like intelligent predators, adjusting mid-flight, weaving through countermeasures, exploding against weak points Dominion engineers believed invisible. Within minutes the Dominion formation collapsed. Within 10 minutes half the fleet was gone. Within 11 minutes the battle was over. 30 Dominion cruisers, vessels forged through centuries of conquest, became silent clouds of debris. And the humans hadn't lost a single ship. Captain Zara Hale of the UEFS Revenant stood on her bridge, eyes sharpened by grim purpose. The battle hadn't satisfied her, it had only confirmed their path. "Transmit a message," she ordered. Her officer nodded. "Content." Zara's voice chilled the air. "Tell them, humanity is coming." The message raced across Dominion space, igniting panic wherever it arrived. It was no longer a whisper. It was a promise. Far away in the Dominion's throne fortress, their supreme warlord received the report, and for the first time in his reign, doubt crept into his bones. Humanity was not what they expected, and their nightmare was only beginning. Deep within the obsidian spires of Karzun, the Dominion's capital fortress, War Sovereign Mocker stood before a wall of crackling holograms. His claws were clenched so tightly that fragments of stone flooring cracked beneath his feet. He had just finished reviewing the impossible. 30 Dominion cruisers, veteran warships, battle-forged, commanded by experienced officers, destroyed in 11 minutes. By humans. By a species the Dominion had dismissed as soft, sentimental, and technologically stagnant. Mocker's advisors trembled around him. These were the fiercest warriors of the Empire, brutal conquerors who had wiped out civilizations, but now they avoided his eyes. As if he were the problem. As if humanity were the nightmare lurking in the shadows behind him. "What of Outpost Zera's 9? Mocker demanded. "Gone," General Thrisk rasped. "No distress beacon. No survivors. Their last transmission was a warning." "A warning?" The general hesitated. "It said, 'Humanity is coming.'" The chamber fell silent. Mocker's nostrils flared. "They dare threaten us?" Another advisor stepped forward. "My lord, this was not a threat. It was an announcement." A pulse of frustration cracked the air as Mocker slammed his fist into a console, shattering it. Sparks danced across the floor. "They are prey," Mocker snarled. "A prey animal bleeding bravely does not change its fate." But even he felt the truth gnawing at him. Prey did not fight like this. Prey did not dismantle elite cruisers without losing a single vessel. Prey did not appear from fold space with impossible precision or wield weapons that tore through shields older species feared. The Dominion's tactic for millennia had been simple. Overwhelm, crush, enslave, expand. Humanity had flipped that script in a single battle. A hologram flickered. More reports streamed in, each worse than the last. Human fleets sighted in the Nera expanse. Frontier outpost Lurik 7 lost. 3 trade sectors evacuated, panic spreading. They are striking multiple border regions simultaneously. Mocker's throat tightened. Not defense. Not retaliation. A coordinated advance. Humanity wasn't trying to hide or survive. They were hunting. "How many human fleets?" he demanded. General Thrisk swallowed hard. "At least 12, each with hundreds of ships." 12? Mocker's blood chilled. They had believed humanity's entire fleet consisted of a few outdated vessels. Now hundreds were appearing everywhere at once. "How did they build so many?" another asked. No one answered. Because no one could. One strategist finally whispered, "We must gather every Dominion warship. All of them. A single decisive force." Mocker nodded slowly. "Yes, if we overwhelm them with numbers." "Numbers did not save Zera's 9, someone murmured. Mocker bared his teeth, silencing them. "Prepare the grand assembly. Summon every fleet, every cruiser, every battleship. The Dominion will not fall to a species that hides behind peace." But as his advisors hurried out, Mocker remained still. For the first time in his reign, he felt something that dulled even his rage. Not fear. Recognition. Humanity reminded him of something from ancient Dominion legends. An old, forbidden tale whispered to hatchlings. Beware the creature that chooses peace. For when it finally rises, it rises with all the strength it once restrained. Mocker inhaled sharply. The humans hadn't shown their full strength yet. That thought alone was terrifying. 3 weeks later, the Dominion's Grand Armada assembled, an army so vast it blotted out starlight. But waiting for them in the dark was a force even larger, and a human admiral who had already planned their defeat. 3 weeks later, the Dominion achieved what no species in their long, brutal history had ever done. They assembled their entire military might in one place. The Vornis Rift, a region of turbulent star currents, darkened beneath the sheer mass of metal now gathered there. 1,560 Dominion warships drifted in formation. Colossal dreadnoughts, jagged cruisers, raptor-like interceptors, and armored carriers forged for siege warfare. Their hulls glowed crimson under the rift's light, like a swarm of predators swimming in the blood of stars. War Sovereign Mocker stood upon the bridge of his flagship, the Gore Warden, its command platform overlooking the assembled armada like a throne above an army. He felt power. He felt confidence. He felt the Dominion, his Dominion, rallying behind him. This, Mocker roared, is the force that will remind the galaxy who rules the void. His crew cheered, slamming fists against steel, their war cries shaking the chamber. Yet even in the depths of this triumph, unease gnawed at him. Outpost Zera's 9 had not been defeated, it had been annihilated. Fleets on the Empire's edges had vanished. Dominion commanders had reported human ships jumping in and out of battles with precision that defied physics. Still, he forced confidence into his voice. No prey escapes the Dominion for long. Today we teach these humans humility. His tactical officer gestured nervously toward the sensor wall. Our long-range scans detect something approaching. How many? Mocker demanded. The officer hesitated. Not sure, my lord. The signatures are large. Too large. Define too large. The room went silent as the display resolved. Then the reading stabilized. Then the bridge trembled in disbelief. Because the humans were already there. 4,000 ships. Silent. Patient. Waiting in the dark like a beast that had tracked its wounded prey to the perfect kill zone. Admiral Adrian Holt stood on the bridge of the USS Prometheus, his hands clasped behind him, his expression solemn, not triumphant. Report, he said. Dominion warships, 1,560. Full assault formation. Holt nodded. Exactly as predicted. This wasn't confidence. This was certainty. The Prometheus was a titan of steel and plasma, nearly a city in size, bristling with weapons humanity had never revealed until now. Around it, the hidden Earth Armada stretched across the rift like a wall of unstoppable resolve. Open a channel, Holt ordered. Mocker's face flashed onto the view screen, snarling, defiant, masking fear with fury. Human, the Sovereign roared. You dare stand before the Dominion with this mockery of a fleet? Holt didn't blink. This is no mockery, he replied quietly. This is restraint. Mocker hissed. You cannot win. We outnumber you. Count again. Mocker froze as additional signatures ignited behind Holt's fleet. Another 1,000 ships emerging from fold space. Then another 1,000. The Dominion officers stared in horror as the truth became undeniable. Humanity hadn't brought an army. Humanity had brought everyone. Holt's voice cut through the dread. You destroyed Horizon's edge. You murdered families. You taught us fear again. His eyes hardened. Now we will teach you why the galaxy begged us to choose peace. Holt lowered his hand. All ships, advance. The largest battle in recorded history began. The opening volley of the Battle of Vornis Rift would be remembered for centuries, not for its brutality, but for how swiftly Dominion pride collapsed under the weight of humanity's unleashed fury. The first minute of the Battle of Vornis Rift ended more than 3 centuries of Dominion confidence. When Admiral Holt gave the order, all ships advance. The human armada moved with terrifying unity. No hesitation. No faltering. Just purpose. The Dominion, proud masters of conquest, expected a frontal charge. Expected chaos. Expected fear. What they saw instead was coordination so precise it felt unnatural. Human battle groups surged forward in layered waves, each formation shifting like gears within a colossal machine. Smaller vessels darted like silver ghosts, weaving between lumbering cruisers that carried cannons bright as newborn stars. The Dominion opened fire first. Their dreadnoughts unleashed volleys of plasma, enough to slag cities. Their interceptors fired swarms of disruptor rounds that glowed like green comets. The rift lit up like a dying sun. But human shields, new, adaptive, and unlike anything the Dominion had catalogued, absorbed the barrage with rippling distortions. The blast struck, but the ships didn't buckle, didn't drift, didn't retreat. They advanced. Return fire, Holt commanded. Human rail batteries ignited. To Dominion sensors, the projectiles were invisible, only their effects registered. A dreadnought's armor bulged, then vanished in a silent blossom of debris. A cruiser's shield collapsed as if ripped from its frame. 10 more ships folded in half under kinetic force the Dominion had never imagined possible. In the first 90 seconds, 60 Dominion vessels were destroyed. General Thrisk, aboard the Dominion flagship, staggered backward. Impossible, nothing breaches frontal plating that quickly. Mocker slammed a claw against the holodable. Regroup. Force them into a single front. Crush them with concentrated fire. But concentration was impossible. Humanity didn't fight in lines. They fought like water, flowing, bending, breaking apart, rejoining. Each cluster of human vessels acted independently yet perfectly harmonized, as if the battlefield itself whispered instructions to them. Dominion interceptors attempted to flank. Human frigates were already there. Dominion dreadnoughts attempted to push through the center. Human capital ships formed a rotating shield wall, absorbing the assault before counterattacking with precision strikes that crippled command vessels in seconds. Then came the missiles. Humanity's guided warheads streaked through the rift in coordinated swarms, each one learning, adjusting, evolving mid-flight. Dominion countermeasures, decoys, flares, disruptor nets, confused other enemies but not these weapons. The missiles curved around every trap, avoided every false target, struck every vital point. Each detonation was a sunburst of catastrophic brilliance. Pull back. Thrisk screamed. We're losing cohesion. Mocker's voice cracked. We fight to the last ship. But the officers around him could see the truth. Pride was no longer a weapon. It was an anchor dragging them into annihilation. 3 hours into the battle, half the Dominion armada was gone. Human losses were shockingly low. Scattered damage, a handful of disabled vessels. Not a single confirmed loss. Humanity had waited centuries to forget war. But they had not forgotten how. Realizing defeat was inevitable, Mocker made a desperate call, opening a channel to Admiral Holt. But humanity was no longer interested in negotiations. Dominion flagship Gore Warden shook violently as another human missile burst against its weakening shields. Warning symbols flickered across every console. Overload alarms, reactor strain, collapsing defense grids. The bridge was filled with smoke and frantic voices. War Sovereign Mocker gripped the edge of his command throne, his claws cutting grooves into the metal. 3 hours ago, he had commanded the largest fleet in Dominion history. Now he commanded a tomb surrounded by burning allies. Shields at 12%, an officer shouted. Deck 6 is gone, direct hull breach. Multiple cruisers requesting orders. They're falling apart. Mocker had fought for centuries. He had crushed rebellions, stormed civilizations, broken empires. But never had he witnessed destruction of this scale. Humanity didn't fight like conquerors. They fought like a hurricane made of steel. A weaponized force of nature. It cannot end this way, Mocker whispered, voice trembling. Not to them. Not to a species that pretended peace. General Thrisk, his scales scorched and armor cracked, swallowed hard. My lord, if we continue like this, the Dominion will have no fleet left. Not today, not ever. Mocker glared at him, fury and desperation warring in his eyes. Thrisk continued, lower now. Request a ceasefire. Negotiate. Survive. The words tasted like poison. But survival was all that remained. With a shuddering exhale, Mocker spat the command he never thought possible. Open a channel, to the human flagship. Static filled the air before the holographic display flickered, revealing Admiral Adrian Holt aboard the UFS Prometheus. Composed. Surrounded by officers operating with unshakable discipline. Mocker's chest tightened. There was no triumph in Holt's eyes. Only judgment. Human. Mocker bellowed, forcing dominance into his tone. We seek terms. A cessation of hostilities. A path to... No. Holt's voice cut like a blade. Mocker blinked. You refuse, without even hearing? You destroyed Horizon's Edge, Holt said. You hunted civilians. You bombarded shelters. You laughed while children burned. Mocker opened his mouth, but Holt continued. You offered them no terms. No surrender. No mercy. This is war. Mocker snarled. Collateral. This is consequence, Holt snapped. A heavy silence followed. On the Dominion bridge, officers froze. For the first time, the power dynamic between predator and prey had reversed. This war ends on your homeworld, Holt said. Not here. Why spare us at all? Mocker spat bitterly. Why not wipe us out now if vengeance is your goal? Holt's jaw tightened. Because extinction teaches nothing. But justice does. Before Mocker could respond, the channel severed. The human fleet did not stop firing. But the pattern changed, targeting engines, disarming weapons, disabling ships instead of annihilating them. Thrisk looked at Mocker in disbelief. He means to take us alive. Mocker sank into his command throne, the weight of his defeat crushing him harder than any human weapon. Humanity wasn't simply winning. They were rewriting the Dominion's future. The Dominion survivors, damaged, defanged, humiliated, were ordered to follow the human fleet. Their destination? The one place they had never imagined bringing an enemy, their own homeworld. The journey to the Dominion homeworld, Karzun Prime, was slower than any fleet movement in their long brutal history. Not because the Dominion ships were damaged, though most were limping wrecks barely held together, but because the humans forced them to fly at civilian-safe speed. It was humiliation layered upon humiliation. The surviving Dominion vessels, only 17 of the once mighty armada, drifted behind the human fleet like wounded animals chained to a victorious predator. On the bridge of the Gore Warden, Mocker watched the colossal human armada ahead of him. Thousands of ships, their hulls gleaming with cold blue energy, forming a formation so vast it resembled a moving constellation. Thrisk's voice broke the silence. They escort us, like prisoners. Mocker did not answer. He knew what they truly were. Examples. Each Dominion ship was a warning to every system they passed through. Every outpost. Every colony. Every civilian watching from planets below. The empire that had dominated the stars for 3,000 years was returning home as a defeated procession. As Karzun Prime came into view, a world of shimmering oceans, crimson forests, and towering spires, Dominion citizens stared upward in disbelief. Their skies glowed with unfamiliar lights. Human ships. Thousands of them. Dark silhouettes blotted out constellations people had known since childhood. Entire cities froze as massive shadows passed overhead, eclipsing the crimson sun. On screens across the planet, emergency networks activated automatically. Incoming signal, unauthorized entry, military grade. Families huddled around displays. Teachers locked classroom doors. Merchants fled into shelters. Warriors ran to their stations, only to discover their military command was gone. Everything shifted when one final vessel broke the clouds, the massive human flagship USS Prometheus, descending with a controlled, terrifying grace. And then every device, every tablet, every street projector, every government console, went black. A single transmission overrode the entire network. Admiral Adrian Holt appeared. Not as a conqueror. Not as a tyrant. But as a judge. People of Karzun Prime, he began, his voice steady, amplified across continents. Your fleets have fallen. Your outposts have surrendered. And your leaders, those responsible for the destruction of Horizon's Edge, will face justice. Panic rippled through the streets. Holt continued. Know this, we did not come to destroy you. If destruction were our intent, your cities would already be ashes. Dominion citizens trembled. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Human transports descended, but instead of soldiers carrying rifles they carried medical supplies, translators, engineers, and diplomats. It was incomprehensible. Mocker watched from orbit, unable to understand the enemy who fought like gods but landed like caretakers. Holt's final words echoed across the planet. You will surrender your weapons, your warlords, and your conquests. In exchange, humanity will show you something your empire has not offered in 3,000 years. Mercy. Shock washed across the Dominion. Mercy was a concept they had preached as weakness. Now it was the only thing keeping them alive. But mercy always carries a price, and humanity was ready to collect it. The trials, the disarmament, the liberation of enslaved worlds, and the moment the galaxy realized peace had a new guardian. Human boots did not thunder through Karzun Prime streets. There were no marching columns, no banners raised, no triumphant fanfare. Instead, humanity's arrival felt more like the passing of a storm, the kind that destroys a kingdom but waters the land afterward. The first order issued by Admiral Holt was clear. All Dominion weapons, vessels, and military infrastructure are to be surrendered, immediately and fully. Human engineers arrived in towering gravlifts, disarming orbital cannons, dismantling fortress shields, and securing launch bays without firing a single shot. Dominion soldiers, confused, afraid, and leaderless, laid down their arms. Many had never surrendered in their entire lineage. Some did so with trembling claws, others with almost relief. The Gore Warden was boarded next. Mocker watched silently as human officers approached, calm, stern, efficient. There were no insults, no mockery, only duty. You are to be taken into custody, a human officer said. Mocker expected shackles. Instead he was offered a seat. This shattered him more than defeat ever could. The trial of the warlords. A week later, the Grand Tribunal convened in a vast amphitheater encircled by both Dominion and human observers. Representatives of species once enslaved by the Dominion watched from honored seats, some crying quietly, some trembling with pent-up rage, others simply numb. The accused Dominion leaders, those who commanded the slaughter at Horizon's Edge, stood in containment fields. Mocker was among them. Admiral Holt addressed the assembly. For 3,000 years the Dominion has ruled by force. Today the galaxy returns the verdict. Evidence was displayed. Intercepted orders, battle footage, testimonies, and finally Commander Aiko Ren's final broadcast. The room fell into absolute silence as her voice echoed, scarred but unbroken. When it ended, even several Dominion officers bowed their heads. The verdict was unanimous. Guilty of war crimes, mass murder and violations of interstellar humanitarian accords. Sentences were delivered, not execution but lifelong exile and labor on reconstruction worlds, a punishment designed not to kill, but to make them witness everything they destroyed begin to heal. Mocker stared at Holt and whispered, "You spare even monsters." Holt answered with a heavy truth. "Justice must teach. Vengeance only repeats." The Unchained Worlds. Across former Dominion territory, human fleets activated Phase 2, Liberation. Entire species regained sovereignty after centuries in chains. Ruined cities were rebuilt with human aid. Food, medicine, and water flowed into starving settlements. Diplomatic academies were established. Trade routes reopened. Peacekeeping coalitions formed under a charter signed not by conquerors, but by the freed themselves. The galaxy watched humanity, once underestimated, become something new. Not rulers, not conquerors, but guardians. The memorial. 1 year later, at the remains of Horizon's edge, a dark ring-shaped monument floated in silent orbit. Its stone surface bore every name of every soul lost. Families from dozens of species visited. Children touched the engraved names with reverence. Even former Dominion citizens came, humbled and grieving. At the center, Commander Aiko Ren's name shone brightest. Admiral Holt spoke quietly during the inaugural ceremony. Horizon's edge was where we remembered who we were. This monument is where we choose who we become. But even as the galaxy entered a new age of unity, whispers spread across deep space. A distant signal, ancient, powerful, and very much awake, had detected the war. Something old was stirring, watching humanity rise, and deciding whether to fear it or challenge it. Long after the Dominion's flags were lowered, long after the tribunals ended, long after the galaxy began to breathe again, peace settled like a soft blanket over the stars. Trade routes reopened. Diplomats embraced instead of threatened. Former enemies broke bread at the same tables. The galaxy had not seen harmony like this in millennia. Humanity was everywhere, not as rulers but as builders, mediators, and quiet protectors. Their fleets patrolled liberated regions not with weapons aimed outward, but with docking bays full of aid. For the first time, countless species felt safe. But peace has a way of drawing attention. And not always the good kind. The first anomaly. In a remote corner of uncharted deep space, far beyond the known star lanes, an ancient listening array drifted in the void. It was not human-made, nor Dominion, nor built by any current species. Its creators were long dead. Its original purpose, forgotten. Its guardians lost to time. Yet it still listened. And when the Battle of Vornis Rift raged, a shockwave of exotic energy washed across the galaxy. Technologies unseen for ages flared like torches in the dark. The array woke. Its crystalline core pulsed with golden light as it replayed the signatures it had collected. Humanity's adaptive shields. The Prometheus-class quantum drives. Hyperkinetic rail impacts that bent spacetime. Intelligence-guided missiles with evolving logic. Fold space travel at speeds believed impossible. It recorded everything. Then it broadcast. A single message. A whisper carried by gravity waves, rippling through black holes, bouncing between nebula clusters. A frequency so low only the oldest machines could decode it. The children of fire have awakened. Earth detects something impossible. Months later, in a deep research station orbiting Neptune, a young technician named Lyra Owens noticed a strange pattern. Tiny distortions in gravitational readings repeated every 11 minutes. She thought it was an equipment glitch. Then the distortions formed a sequence. A countdown. Her voice shook as she alerted command. "Oh, I think the universe is signaling back." Within hours, every major scientific and military facility across human space confirmed it. Something was responding to humanity. Something old. Something watching. A council meeting was called, urgent, classified. Admiral Holt joined via secure hololink. "Can you identify the source?" he asked. "No, sir," Lyra replied, her eyes wide. "But whatever it is, it predates the Dominion by hundreds of thousands of years." The room went cold. "What does the signal say?" Holt asked. She swallowed. "It says, 'We are coming.'" The first shadow. At the edge of a dead galaxy cluster, a structure the size of a moon glowed faintly, shedding layers of cosmic dust. Shapes, colossal, metallic, older than recorded history, shifted in the darkness. They had slept for eras. They had witnessed the rise and fall of ancient empires. They had not moved in eons. Until now. One of the giants lifted its head, eyes like supernova cores flickering open. Fireborn, awaken again, it rumbled. The stars trembled. A new chapter of galactic history had begun. Humanity had survived the Dominion. But something older, far more powerful, is stirring. And unlike the Dominion, it does not underestimate humanity. Remembers them. The galaxy slept softly under its new peace, unaware that something ancient was shifting beneath the cosmic veil. Stars that had not flared in millions of years flickered faintly, as though startled awake. Gravitational tides warped with unnatural rhythm, like a heartbeat echoing across the void. The countdown detected by Lyra Owens had reached its final cycle. And something answered. The first tremble. On the dark side of Europa Station, researchers gathered in the observation dome, staring at holograms that shimmered with violent distortion. What is this? One scientist whispered. Spacetime wasn't simply bending. It was breathing. Every few seconds a pulse rippled through the solar system, soft, rhythmic, intelligent. Admiral Holt arrived moments later, surrounded by tactical officers and analysts. His face was stern, but beneath the surface unease lurked. Report. Lyra Owens stepped forward, her voice steady though her hands shook. The gravitational countdown ended 20 minutes ago, sir. After that, she gestured to the pulse waves displayed around them. This started. Holt studied the anomaly with narrowed eyes. It's not an attack, Lyra continued. It's a call. Someone is announcing themselves. The pulse grew stronger. Then stopped. Silence flooded the solar system. The sky cracks. Without warning, every starship sensor across human space surged with alarms. Quantum drives hiccuped. Navigation panels glitched. Defense grids lit up as if expecting an invasion. The anomaly stretched thin, then tore open. A shimmering rift bloomed just beyond the Kuiper belt. Not like fold space jumps humans used. Not like Dominion warp scars. This was older, calmer, more deliberate. Out of the crack stepped light. A vessel, if it could be called that, glided forward. Its surface was not metal but glowing crystal, shifting in patterns that resembled running water. Every curve hummed with harmonic resonance, as though the ship was alive and singing softly in a forgotten cosmic tongue. Its size dwarfed everything in human history. Not built for war. Not built for travel. Built, as a message. Holt inhaled sharply. They're not hiding. The ship slowed, and stopped exactly 1 AU from Earth. Then the transmission began. Not words. A presence. A voice that resonated through minds instead of speakers. Warm and ancient, like the whisper of stars being born. Children of fire, you have awakened the path you once walked. Humanity froze. Lyra felt her knees weaken. Children of fire? Who are they talking to? The voice continued. We were the first to shape the stars. We slept when the galaxy tore itself apart. But your battle, the echo of your wrath, has reached us. Admiral Holt clenched his fists. State your intent, he said aloud, unsure if the being could hear spoken language. The answer came instantly. We come not for war, but because war will come for you. The researchers exchanged uneasy looks. Your light has been seen. Your strength has stirred an ancient hunger. The Dominion was nothing compared to what lies beyond the deep night. Lyra's voice cracked. Are you warning us? The presence dimmed slightly, like a nod. Prepare yourselves, Fireborn. We will return with answers. And allies. The enormous vessel folded into itself like collapsing starlight, and vanished. Silence returned. But peace did not. As the rift closed, Holt realized an unsettling truth. Humanity had not just been noticed. It had been reclassified, drawn into a game older than the galaxy itself. And something else had heard the Fireborn's call. Something that was not friendly. Humanity stood at the edge of a horizon it had never seen before. The Dominion War was over. Their empire had fallen. The galaxy was stabilizing. And yet, for the first time since Horizon's edge burned, Admiral Holt felt something colder than fear. Anticipation. Because when the Fireborn vessel vanished, it left behind more than warnings. It left disturbances. The shadow that followed. In deep space, far beyond the Fireborn's point of arrival, sensors began detecting something else. Something without a signature, without a form, without anything that could be understood. A darkness moved. Not absence of light. Not a ship. Not an energy field. A void shaped like a wound in reality. And the void was growing. On Jupiter's shadow array, an operator stammered into the comlink, "Sir, object approaching at impossible velocity. No emissions. No gravitational profile. It's like space itself is peeling." Holt responded instantly. "Lock visual." The screen flickered, then filled with ink-black static. And then, two red lights flickered inside the darkness. Ancient, merciless, patient. Holt felt the air leave his lungs. Is that the threat the Fireborn warned us about? Nobody answered. Because nobody wanted to be right. The final council. Within hours, the United Galactic Council convened, humans, liberated species, even trembling Dominion representatives seeking guidance. Holt stood at the center. "The Fireborn call us children of fire," he began, voice steady. "They see something in us that our enemies mistakenly feared. Something we chose to restrain." The hologram displayed the void entity drifting through uncharted space, devouring starlight as it moved. "This is not a war of territory," Holt said. "This is not a war of pride. This is a war of survival." One former Dominion general asked, voice shaking, "Do we stand a chance?" Holt didn't answer immediately. Instead, he displayed the unified fleet, thousands of human ships, thousands more from liberated worlds, engineers working tirelessly on hybrid technologies built from Fireborn data fragments already shared. He finally spoke. "We stand a chance because we stand together." The last night on Earth before the new war. Holt visited Horizon's Edge Memorial that night. The ring of black stone circled peacefully above the star that had watched the first tragedy unfold. Names glowed softly, illuminated by drifting stardust. Commander Iko Ren's name shone at the center. Holt placed his hand against the stone. "We avenged them," he whispered. "Now we fight to honor them." As he turned to leave, a low rumble vibrated through the station, an alert tone used only once before during the Dominion invasion. But this time it wasn't panic. It was readiness. Humanity had learned its lesson. Peace requires strength. Strength requires unity. Unity requires resolve. And the galaxy now looked to humanity as its shield. The beginning of a new era. On the horizon of Earth, thousands of new starships ascended from shipyards, sleek, powerful, built from human steel, Dominion alloys and Fireborn crystal tech. They rose in formation like a reborn constellation. Humanity's third armada. The armada that would face the coming darkness. Holt spoke to the entire galaxy in one final broadcast. "We are humanity. We do not start wars. We finish them. And we protect those who cannot fight." He looked into the camera, eyes unwavering. "To whatever watches from the deep night, know this. We are ready." Far beyond the galactic rim, something stirred at the entity's approach. Something colossal, ancient, and hungry. The stars dimmed as its shadow unfurled. And so the galaxy whispered one final truth. The Dominion was only the beginning.